Hey, so I just finished watching Midsommar, the theatrical cut. So I'm still processing it, just like when I finished Hereditary, I was still processing it. I feel like I had a more positive reaction to this one than Hereditary. Now I can see why Hereditary is technically a better film, but I could see myself recommending this one more than Hereditary. My one complaint with the movie is that the main character makes a choice at the end that I feel makes the character unlikable and unsympathetic, but it does create a visceral reaction, I feel, so it's semi excusable. But I don't know if it exactly, benefits the story. I don't know. I mean, I guess I get why they do it, but like I feel like there's a better ending to be found there that they could have done, but whatever. It's definitely one to see though. Even though the ending's like probably one of the weaker parts of the film, and the second half of the movie is surprisingly slow. I'd say slower than the first half. I'd still say definitely see it. The cinematography is gorgeous for the movie. It's so well shot. There are so many shots of the movie that just look so cool. The script is very subversive and clever. Like I said, some of the subversive moments feel, I don't know, like usually pessimistic moments I just love, and maybe this will be one of those movies where I'll react better to it the second time around, but it didn't hit me correctly, I feel. I don't know, but it just kind of hit me like the same way Hereditary did, where I wasn't quite vibing with it, but I still very much enjoyed the movie, like, a lot. But the cinematography, acting, and like, I still liked that it was subversive, and I still liked how it was written. There was comedy this time around to balance it out, but the comedy slowly went away. It's definitely a feel bad movie, if that makes sense. It's not very satisfying, I feel, is another thing. So that's another complaint, though, that also ties into the ending. I know I'm getting a lot of complaints, but I, like, enjoyed the movie, like, a ton. I support almost anything A24, as long as, like, it doesn't do one or two little things. And this one didn't do the one or two little things, so I say go support it. So, yeah, Midsummer I'd give an 8.75 out of 10. So, pretty high. Uh, Not flawless, definitely more flawed than Hereditary, but I still personally liked it more. So I feel like I want to do a spoiler review. So this is the spoiler-free section. I kind of went into mild spoilers earlier, but I didn't get into specifics. I'll do spoiler-free stuff still. Um, yeah, there is a lot to like in the movie. The cinematography was one of the main takeaways. I did like how I didn't know what was gonna happen. It reminded me a lot of Annihilation, and just like, I don't know, it kind of gave me an Alex Garland vibe, but in a very Ari Aster way, because, it is that director, so of course it's gonna be like Hereditary. Yeah, I did enjoy it, and, um, even though I wasn't sure how I feel about Hereditary, I'm still not. I'm not sure what I'd give Hereditary out of 10, or even if I'd recommend it. This one, I feel like I would. Yeah. What else? I did like the performances, even though, like I said, character moment towards the end didn't sit well with me, and I felt like it was kind of out of character. Because up until that moment, I was vibing with the character, and then it just felt really off. But it makes sense why the character made that choice because of something another character did in a previous scene, but still, it's not like justifiable. Uh, in my Joker review, I talked about how or maybe I didn't talk about it in the Joker review, but it made sense why you suddenly flipped on going from being sympathetic for the Joker to being unsympathetic for the Joker because he's the villain. So once you leap away from being sympathetic for him, it totally works for the film because he's the villain and that's the point. So that's why I liked it in that film more than this one. But yeah, with all its problems and flaws, I'd still definitely recommend it. And if I ever gain access to the extended cut, I'll definitely check that out. Especially if it has scenes from the opening third of the movie, because that's the part of the movie I enjoyed most, was the first act, before it even got to the village or wherever. I feel like some parts of the story were kind of unclear. Like, even now, I'm kind of unclear on how the story played out, like, in some aspects, or where the story goes from the moment it ends. Because the ending isn't really ambiguous, per se, but I feel like it didn't explain as much as it thought it did. Does that make sense? Anyways, now I'll go into the spoiler section for not Hereditary. Now I'm going into the spoiler section for Midsommar. So if you've not seen Midsommar, spoilers, click away now. And I'd say go see it. So yeah. Alright, here are the spoilers for Midsommar and my reactions to it. So the opening 10 minutes were hype as heck. Everything through that opening credit sequence were stunning. A24 does a really good job hiding those big, shocking plot points for Ari Aster movies. Hereditary did it, so of course Midsommar did it with Dead Family. That really caught me off guard, especially that early. I really should have put two and two together, because, like, I did hear in some review that she was, like, dealing with grief. So once I heard that, I was like, okay, so she's totally not dying in this movie, and everyone else in this movie totally is. But I didn't think that the movie would even delve into her family, let alone kill them off. I just thought it would have been like the rest of the supporting cast, so like everyone else in her party was kind of a given because it's like a horror movie, so she's the final girl, so everyone else dies. The movie was like a less conventional horror movie too. Like, the reason why the cliff scene was like the famous scene from the movie was because it was like the only scene with like actual gore in the movie, like the only horror scene you would think of from the movie. It was very subversive in that kind too. It's such an odd movie. Like, it's really out there. It does a lot of weird things, but I also like really appreciate it. So yeah, I did like that emotional element with that. Yeah, I was really digging the first third of the movie. I wish the whole movie was just that first third, and I would have totally been happy. If nothing would have happened to any of the characters, I would have been totally fine with that. I might have even liked the movie more if nothing happened. That would have been the most subversive thing. If after her family got killed, nothing happened to any of the characters, like if nothing happened at the festival, like at all, and they just went home, that would have been interesting. Like, weird, like they could have even still had the cliff scene, but they wouldn't have done like the final sacrifice, which we'll get to in a minute. But that would have been interesting if just like none of the other characters died. That would have been so cool if they would have done that, and just like no weird stuff. It's just like, oh, they get to go home, whatever. She just has to deal with grief, stuff like that, breakups, stuff like that. That would have been great, honestly. Also, if the majority of the film was them making their way out to the festival, that would have been fine by me too. I was under the impression when I heard that it was slower. I thought that the first act was going to be her at home, The middle act was gonna be them trekking through the jungle getting to the village, and then I thought the third act was gonna be the village. But no, it was the first act was them getting to the village. The middle act was them at the village before anything goes wrong, and then the third act was the village going wrong, which not much went wrong during the village. Well, I guess that's really an unfair way to categorize what happened. But if you've seen the movie and if you're watching the review at this point, you know what happened. Cliff scene and then the ending, basically. Oh yeah, and then people getting hit with rocks. And yeah. Now, elaborating on what I was talking about at the beginning. So I thought that so the main character's definitely, I would not describe her as the heroine of the movie, just like how I wouldn't describe the robot of Ex Machina as the heroine of that movie, because she makes a really just harsh decision at the end to just totally let her ex like burn to death, which is really hardcore and kind of feels out of character for her. Because she's already suffering from grief from, like, Erwin in her life dying. So I thought, like, you know, and she seemed like the type of character to already be, like, clinging to her boyfriend beforehand. So, like, she was, like, really committed to the relationship more so than he was. And he was like, oh, man, I really don't want to drop her because her family's dead. And she's really committed, and I feel really bad and all that, right? And she just straight up murders him. Which, I mean, is it really justified, though? I mean, like, he does cheat on her, but then it's under the implication that they're just pumped full of drugs throughout the majority of the film, and guided to make all these events happen. Basically, the Swedish people guide them all into becoming the monsters that they end up becoming. So, she making the horrible choice more so felt like they turned her into a monster, and she didn't realize it. And then they also turned him into a monster. Well, he didn't really turn into a monster, but they made him make a mistake so that it would push her over the edge so that they could sadistically kill him. And yeah, that's all really messed up. I just felt really bad for him because, like, he died in a really awful way. And just like everyone in that TP, I kind of felt bad for. Just everyone in the movie, period, I felt bad for. Because, like, oh man, it was just, you just felt bad for just all of them. Because all of them had very not fun deaths, like, at all. Ooh boy, it's just not a pleasant movie. Even though the final frame is a happy smile, it does not feel happy. So, yeah, I guess that's my review on it. What happens, like, after the movie? Like, what do you do after that point? Does she, like, return home? Or does she, like, stay in that village the rest of her life? Does she, like, go crazy? Was that what was happening at the end? Was there, like, a weird soul connection between all the people? Or were they just trying to be empathetic with one another with, like, whenever they shriek or go crazy or whatever? Like, that was some weird A Cure for Wellness crap towards the end there. I don't know what was happening. I got so lost during the final scene where they were all shrieking when the teepee was going down. I was like, wasn't this what you wanted? Why are you all freaking out? And then she just smiles after crying, and it's like, okay, so she's sad because she killed her ex, and then she's like, I finally accept it because I am strong, independent murderer. I don't know. The ending just didn't sit well with me. Even though I predicted that she would survive and the rest of the crew wouldn't, I don't know, just something about the way it went about it felt off. It felt incorrect. Does that make sense? Like, it feels like one of the drafts that you would write of the script that you would discard before getting to the script that you would eventually go with. It feels like one of those. Like, interesting in theory, but not the one we're gonna go with. Does that make sense? it kind of feels like one of those, wow, I've been talking about this movie for 15 minutes. Wow. I did not think it would go this long. Anyway, so yeah, pretty cool movie. It is kind of long, but that's totally fine. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, look forward to the director's other stuff. I'm interested to see how he'll tackle non-horror projects. Cause I would love to see non-horror stuff from this director. I feel like that could be really cool. And I'll watch that stuff. So yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the review. So yeah, bye.